I'm Dennis Foley, and this is Chapter 32. I was parked near Highway 118, and if it hadn't been for that, I would have missed Lil. She screeched onto the pavement in her small Honda SUV without stopping to check for traffic coming either way. So she failed to see a sheriff's office explorer sitting there, off the road, but in plain view. Lil took off in the direction of Terlingua, leaving behind a cloud of dust. I felt compelled to follow her. Soon after I pulled onto the highway, I called Barney. "Are you still in the office?" "Why? Are you checking on me?" "I'm following Lil because she's headed that way. I'm calling to ask you to wait to look for Chapo. Maybe I can catch them together." "What makes you think she's coming here?" "A gut feeling, and she hasn't pulled off the highway, and she's going 90. She's hauling ass to get to Chapo before we do. My guess is she's going to kill him." Barney was uncharacteristically quiet a moment. That would shut him up, wouldn't it? No silence like death. I've been hearing it for over a year. "Be careful, Ricos. Stay in touch with me. I'll touch base when I get closer to Terlingua. I'd like for you to join me." "I'll be standing by," he said. We were coming out of the mountains that stand between North and South Brewster County, Lil in front and me a safe distance behind. We flew past the picnic area at Elephant Mountain, where Sheriff Ben had a stern talk with me, what seemed like an eternity ago. When we reached the top of Halfway Hill and the long road stretched for miles towards the mountains of South County, I knew that I was nearing the end of my own long road back. I had loved with all my heart and been loved back the same way. I would never forget Kevin, but I would love again because loving and living are in my nature. A peaceful feeling settled over me that even chasing a murderer couldn't remove. In the distance, the rugged mountains I adore stood sure and serene in the dazzling sunlight. When we reached the flats, Lil eased her speed up to 100 miles per hour. I wondered if she noticed a vehicle far behind, going as fast as she was. No matter her speed, I stayed the same distance from her. I doubted if she had thought about it. I believed she had murder on her mind and not much else. Finally, we were passing Cimarron. It forms the right side of the broad hill that slopes down to Terlingua. The Chisas Mountains stand to the left, protecting the national park, but are further away than Cimarron. I flipped open my cell phone, and when Barney answered, I said, "I'm here." "Where's she heading?" "It looks like she's checking for him at the cafe." "I'm going to my Explorer. Don't hang up. I'm with you." "Thanks, Barn." I heard him start the vehicle. He's not at work, or at least his truck isn't there, but she's parking in front anyway. "Where are you?" "I'm next door at the motel, behind the sign." "I don't think she'll notice me. It looks like she's talking on her cell phone." "She's making arrangements to meet him, don't you think?" "Yes, that's exactly what I think." "I'm going to pull up near the highway and sit there until you say to move." "Good idea." "What are you thinking, Batgirl?" he asked after a few seconds. "She sure is long-winded." "Maybe she hasn't been able to reach him yet." "That's possible. Surely she wouldn't be talking to him so long. Then again, she might be lecturing him. I told her he'd been talking." Suddenly Barney laughed. "What?" "I was just thinking I'd like to see that little woman back Chapo into a corner. Maybe they'll kill each other. That would save us a lot of effort." "I don't think it'll be that easy," I said. "Of course not. It never is. Ricos, do you think Austin will be able to get over it?" "Yes, he most likely will. He's a loving and forgiving man, and he's happy from within and believes in himself. But I doubt if he'll ever be as innocent and trusting as he was. I'd like to kill Jimmy Joe for destroying that." "Yeah, I know what you mean." I saw that Lil had started her SUV. "She's moving, Barney, heading your way. My guess is she's going to Chapo's house. When I pass you, follow me." 10-4. I pulled onto the highway far enough behind Lil that I didn't think she'd notice. When I passed the road to our office, Barney pulled in behind me. "Tailing," he said. "If she's going to his house, we can't just follow her. What do you have in mind?" "When we start to get close, let's pull off and approach on foot. We'll run across the desert and come in the back way to his place. She'll be going in the front." Lil surprised both of us by not turning where we thought she would. She stayed on the highway heading west and was picking up speed. "I bet she's meeting him at the river," I said. "He must be there already. That would be my guess." Before long, we passed the ghost town on the right and then Reed's Plateau on the left. I thought that would be a good place to run. There was also Long Draw, an arroyo that crossed the highway in 3 places. It went off into a valley to the right that was surrounded by steep cliffs. That would be a good place for running too. I realized with a profound sense of gratitude that there were more beautiful places to run where I lived than I'd ever had time to explore in one lifetime. "Maybe he was drinking beer over in Paso Lajitas," Barney said, drawing me back to the job at hand. "Probably. It must be his day off. How's your side holding up?" "I'm okay." Lil slowed slightly as she entered the resort town of Lajitas, but flew right through it, past the river crossing just west of there, and the stone wall where I'd overheard the conversation of the Mexican cowboys. "Do you think she's going to Presidio?" "No," I said. "I think she's going to the old movie set." "What makes you think so?" "It would be private and a good place to kill somebody. It could be a long time before his body is discovered." "Have you given a lot of thought to killing somebody at the movie set?" "I'm just trying to imagine where I'd take a guy I was planning to eliminate, and it seems like a good place." In the 1980s, a movie was filmed near Lajitas, and a set was constructed on the bank of the river a few miles upriver from there. It pretended to be a tiny piece of a Mexican town in the movie, and the scenes were shot from Mexico looking back into the U.S. You can't believe anything you see on screen. It is now part of Big Bend Ranch State Park, and the buildings have been preserved as part of the area's history. "If she doesn't stop there, then it would be anybody's guess what she's doing," I said. "Maybe I'm completely wrong about everything." "I highly doubt it," said my partner. "What are the chances? You'd leave her house and she'd get a sudden uncomfortable urge to look at the Rio Grande." "Well, she's a bit on the crazy side." Because the road went constantly into dips and curves, it was impossible to tell that Lil had stopped until I was all but on top of her. I flipped on my lights. "She's stopping," I said. "Our only chance is to speed by like we've been called to an accident upriver. I'm going to floor it. I'm with you." I glanced behind to see that his lights were flashing too. We sped past in a blur. Lil was still sitting in her vehicle. I didn't see Chapo's truck, but didn't have much chance to look for it either. Ahead there was a sharp curve, and I pulled off the road out of sight of the movie set. Barney pulled close behind, got out of the vehicle, and came towards me. "We should approach from the river," I suggested. "We can go down that embankment on the other side of the highway and walk along the bank until we get there." "You make that sound like it'll be easy." "If our jobs were easy, everybody would want them." "True enough. They don't talk about walking through the desert at the Law Enforcement Academy, picking your way through cactus-covered terrain. Are we going to go stop a murder, or are you going to write a novel first?" "Okay," he said, grinning and shrugging his massive shoulders. "Let's go." We hurried across the highway in the direction of a sheer cliff that stands on the Mexican side. My injured side was screaming to slow down, but my gut told me to hurry up. Chapo was a slimy sort, and not someone I cared to be around, but I didn't think Lil had the right to end his life. We picked our way down a steep embankment that was held in place by low-growing cacti and sharply pointed lechuguilla plants. Falling would mean agony, and having someone pick the almost invisible cactus barbs out of your butt. Nobody's idea of fun. At one point, Barney reached up and took me by the arm to steady me. I smiled at him in gratitude. The shore was uneven and rocky, but easier to negotiate than the incline. I breathed deeply of the comforting Rio Grande smell. It flowed lazily along, making a gurgling sound as it passed over tons of stone and pebbles, faithfully inching them downstream. As we neared the movie set, we waited a second behind a sparse stand of salt cedar trees and mesquite bushes. Chapo's flashy red truck was parked on the highway behind Lil's vehicle. We didn't see any humans, but heard voices in one of the houses. We crept towards the sound. Lil was ranting, to nobody's surprise. "No tell nobody," Chapo insisted. "Me no tell." Deputy Ricos told me you'd been bragging about the money and saying you were doing a job for a gringa. "Liar, her liar. Me no tell nobody." "I paid you good money," she whined. Barney and I looked at each other. I don't know what he was thinking, but I wasn't sure what to do. I had no proof that Lil was armed, but also a burning suspicion that she was. I didn't want to pop in on her and get myself shot. If she had a weapon and the opportunity, she'd do it. Barney took his pistol out of its holster and indicated wordlessly that I should do the same. With a hand motion, he suggested I go around the building one way and he'd go the other. I nodded and then crept towards the open door. I was about to peek in when the blast of a gunshot pierced the quiet. Lil had shot Chapo and was poised to put another in him when I shot the pistol out of her hand. I ran inside with Barney right behind me. He went to Lil and I went to Chapo, as if we'd coordinated our moves ahead of time. Lil was shrieking about bleeding to death, about suing, about her fingers. As usual, everything was about her. I knelt beside Chapo and saw that he was in pain but would live. He'd taken a bullet to the thigh. I called the 911 dispatcher to send the medics and pressed a handkerchief against his wound. Me duele, he said pitifully, telling me it hurt. I know, and I'm trying to stop the bleeding. I glanced at Barney, who was trying to stop the flow of Lil's blood, too. I had to shoot her, I said. She was going to shoot Chapo again. Lil yelled, "You did not have to shoot me." "I know that," Ricos to Lil Barney said. "She had to stop you somehow. She could just as easily have killed you. You might not know that Deputy Ricos is a sharpshooter." I don't think Lil was impressed. "I didn't kill that gringa," Chapo said. "Just rest, don't talk." I didn't want to listen to him. My side was not going to be ignored and was making my life miserable. Lil was ranting on and on. I should have shot her tongue off. "I have to tell you about this," Chapo whined. "It can wait." "No can wait," he said, reverting back to bad English. "See, she pays me $20,000 to kill woman. I go do, but no, she dead. Somebody kill her for me." "What?" screeched Lil. "Stop it, Lil," Barney said. "If you can't be quiet, I'll put a gag in your mouth." "That's police brutality," she said snootily. "It would be self-defense," he said. "Necesitan escucharme," Chapo whined back to Spanish. "You need to listen." I just wanted everyone to shut up. I could feel the blood pulsing in my side like the steady stabs of a knife. I sat down next to Chapo with my back against the wall. "I'm trying to tell you something important," Chapo said in Spanish. "I'm listening," I said, and I was, but only halfway. I had to listen first to my injury, because it was even more irritating than Lil or Chapo, and just as insistent. "I got to her house and she was dead on the floor." "Right, Chapo," said Barney. "I'm not bullshitting you, man. I believe every word you say. Nobody ever listens to me." "Chapo," I said, "you can make a statement when we get to Alpine. The sheriff will come to your hospital room and you can tell him everything." "I don't want to tell the sheriff. I want to tell you." "Please, Chapo, give me a break. My side hurts so badly I can't think." "I insist you find my fingers," Lil whined to Barney. I don't see them, he said without looking. I wanted to laugh, but I was in too much pain. Lil launched into another rant about suing and brutality. She'd never seen brutality, except perhaps in the things she and Norma had done. Chapo was finally resting with his eyes closed. Barney's uniform shirt was under his head. We weren't heartless. As I watched my partner ministering to Lil, I wondered how many X's there were in front of the XL on the tag on his t-shirt. Finally, we heard a siren approaching. I got up and went outside to stand by the river. The muddy water swirled around the heavy rocks it couldn't move out of the way. In the stiller areas along the bank, where slender reeds grow, shiny silver minnows dart, glinting as they pass through rays of sunlight. Across the wide expanse of water, a wild burro approached timidly to take a drink. As the ambulance siren grew louder, he scampered away, kicking up his heels in protest. By the time it parked, he was gone. Mitch ran up and gave me a quick hug and then ducked into the building. I heard him talking to Barney. He came out with Lil and her fingers. I guess it was gruesome, but I didn't apologize or even regret it. I had my mind on other things. Mitch and another medic, Joe, brought a stretcher and loaded Chapo onto it. When the medics passed me with Chapo, Mitch said, "You're going to ride with us, aren't you? Aren't these people criminals?" "Yes, they are. Barney's going with you." "You should go," said Barney, coming up next to me. "You can check on Austin." "I can't go yet. I'll be up later." He gave me a questioning look, but didn't argue. "Mitch, can you give me a ride to my Explorer? It's not far." He indicated I should get in. Chapo began to insist again, using butchered English, that he hadn't killed Norma. Had planned to, but she was already dead when he got there. Lil started to chastise him, but Barney held up one of his handkerchiefs. "If you don't want this in your mouth, I suggest you close it right now." She did. "I mean it, Margarita. I swear it. She was dead. Her blood was all over the floor." At my vehicle, I hopped down. "I believe you, Chapo." "You can book them on conspiracy to commit murder," I said to Barney. "They'll do time the same as for murder." What are you talking about, Ricos?" "I'm going to bring in the murderer of Norma Bates," I said. I got into my Explorer, my heart hurting about as much as it ever had.